Alrighty, here's the welcome note. Welcome to week, what are we in, 5 now? Week 5, crazy, time does fly. I'm like kind of saying it out loud. Cool, so we're gonna actually deal with, I think yesterday's PA, a lot of people, I got tons of questions about equal highs and all this stuff. And I think it's good to kind of look at this and tell you why I wasn't too concerned about it. It was, I wouldn't say it was fluky, but it was more so my hedging position against my long. And I'm going to talk about all the emotions that went along with this, because I was a fucking idiot. To be honest with you, I was just so married to my bias, and yeah, man, it just, yeah, it hurts sometimes when you do shit like that. Just going to switch this right here, modify, and we'll take this guy off, modify. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about this. We'll start around, I don't know, I guess 7 o'clock, 6:30, 6:45. So 7. Yeah, right around here. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is go like this. And okay, so when we got on the charts yesterday, one of the things that I had talked about was we had these equal highs kind of resting, sitting above here. So it was a little worrisome to kind of take sells, anything outside of this area. Now, of course, with that said, things change pretty quickly, as most of you know, and your job as a trader is to adapt to your surroundings. So that's kind of what I did. So I told you guys yesterday, if we came up to the POI, I'd jump on a call. We never came to the POI. And then quickly, I realized what was kind of happening as I was on the wrong side of the trade. So what I looked at here was not so much that this was supply right here. Now we're going to look at this through a brand new lens, the right lens that we should have looked at. So this high right here created the low right here, right? And then we failed to break, sorry, this is actually how we should have mapped this. Okay, so this high created this low, which created this high, which created this low, right? So this is the lowest point before putting us up into here. So what does that mean? It means that if we break through this low, that this high up here should in theory be strong. So that was kind of like the small detail. I looked at too much of the extreme, but ultimately, you can kind of see that we're making a series of low, high, low, high. So what I failed to realize was this little detail right here, which was technically a break of structure. So doesn't mean that we're going to have a crazy strong high to trade from, but it means that it's something to consider if we show some sort of a reaction, right? So if you're looking at this break of structure, where does the imbalance sit, and what would be the area in which we would look for potential sell-offs from? That's your cue to call, guys. If you guys want to mark up. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the area in which I would be considering. So, I'm looking at this. Now, again, there was a couple different ways to get into this. So the first one is once we tapped in, you could have maybe looked for something on the lower time frame to be able to get in. So personally, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to speed this up. Okay, so right here. So if we go to the 5 minute, something like this, you can then see that, okay, essentially we've, kind of broken this area right here, which means that if we've broken this little area right here, now again, ideally what I would like to see is this 15-minute shift. So is this considered a 15-minute shift for me? Well, I mean, yet to be determined, but if you look now on the lower time frames, this kind of gives you a little bit more of an idea of what I'm talking about. So if you go over like this and you just kind of wave your magic wand over here, how many guys are looking to take sells from here, guys and girls? And this is just liquidity. We've now actually induced this high right here, right? So this is actually an induced high, putting us up into here, which then creates this guy right here, which is a This is the lowest point right here before we broke. So that creates a change in character. So when we see the chalk, now we can start to consider looking at potential setups, right? So again, there's a few different ways that you could have got into this guy. We're going to talk about all the different ways that were relevant to the strategy. So because we've had this shift right here, we could say, okay, well, your change in character has started. Ideally now, the only place that we're really considering looking for any kind of a trade would be, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there is a very small bit of imbalance right here. It's not a whole lot. This is on the 5-minute chart, so let's go down to the 1. And yeah, there's a very small bit of imbalance to be filled. So, I mean, whether or not you pick that out is another story. But ultimately, there's an inside bar up in the top portion of this area that essentially has not been mitigated. So the area of interest for me would be up in here, first and foremost. Okay, because now we've taken liquidity, right? So more than likely, now that we've taken the liquidity, more than likely we're going to start moving back up to our POI. Okay. Okay, we're on the 5-minute right now. Okay, so right now, so we start moving back up. Let's go down to our entry time frame because technically we've had our change of character. We've come into our higher time frame supply zone. Let me just bring this guy back and just go like this, just so it's a little bit cleaner. So now supplies and control the market from in and around this region on the 5-minute. Okay, so pretty simple. We got some built up sort of liquidity resting like this. Right, we're not looking for trades down here. Once we change character, the idea behind this is that, okay, if we change character, what are areas in which we can look for some sort of potential entry? And if you go like this, you could say, okay, well, if we're sitting here like this, where would be the most likely area to be able to put some sort of an entry right now? There's likely to be a reaction off of this area, but ultimately, if you're unsure, and we have this unmitigated POI on the 5-minute that rests up here, personally, I'd be looking up in this region, possibly for maybe a 5-second flip or a 15-second flip. You could put a limit sitting on this if you really wanted to, but ultimately, are we going to induce this? Are we not? It's a little bit dicey, but let's put a limit on it just for the sake of doing it, because in all fairness, this is a reasonable area to be able to do it. Now, the only thing I don't like about it is, like I said, that small bit of imbalance that kind of rests there that we could very easily migrate back up to. So let's there's that actually up. We'll take the up move before the down move right there. And if you had your limit sitting here like this, see if we get tagged in. 1.8 pip stop, maybe just above here, whatever you want to do, maybe 2 pip stop. And we'll look at targets in just a second, see if we get tagged in. Okay, so tagged into the trade. So now it's just a matter of trying to sort out, what we're going to do next here. And let's go to the 15. All of our targets should be, you can see that we get here. Let's just go to the 1-minute then really quick. We'll just see what happens. Okay, so it blasts right through. For whatever reason, I'm not really sure if there's just imbalance that it wanted to fill up here. But you might have taken your first -1 here. So this might put you in a position where now you're thinking, oh shit, what's going to happen next? But ultimately, you got to remember that this POI, let's get rid of this guy right here. If you got taken out right here, I mean, all this is really going to do is say, okay, well, if I got taken out here, ultimately, the low right here that created this high right here has now been broken. So, and we didn't come down and mitigate any kind of demand. So, I mean, the high in theory should still be strong. So if that's the case, and we're looking at these areas in here, we could then say, okay, well, what do we need to see? So for myself, what I would like to see is probably on a lower time frame, see some sort of a reaction. Okay, there's your reaction. Let's go down to 5-second and just see what happens here. And then from here, you could maybe, and let me just see if there's any kind of entry here, actually. Let's not get too carried away. So ultimately, yeah, because of this like really, really big imbalance, I mean, ultimately, I think I would need to see this get broken first. Let's go to the 1-minute and just kind of see yeah, you can see like that because of just like how quickly this has moved into this. I don't know what I would need to break here to, without trying to force a trade. If you didn't have a limit sitting up here at the extreme with a stop loss above here, which I probably wouldn't really want with these little equal highs resting like this, kind of equal highs resting like this, I'd be a little bit reluctant to kind of put an order. So if I got smoked out on this one, I think I'd be waiting for some sort of a confirmation entry to be able to get in, right? So let's look at this and just kind of see if it delivers something. So we kind of wick above. We've still maintained the high. Okay. Okay, so still moving. So possibly on a 15-second, I don't know what this looks like. Oh yeah, there you go. So this would have been pretty easy to get into on the 15-second right here, again, in hindsight, of course, but the low right here, this. So we'll say the low right here created this guy right here, pretty well equal high at this point. Once this broke, looking somewhere in here with a stop loss above here might have been your first entry. Again, because of the exposure to equal highs and stuff like that, I think I'd be a little bit worried about getting into this. I'd probably be more comfortable getting in once this breaks and looking for something in here. We'll just see if this shapes up. Okay. Tapped into the wick, keep moving in. Hold on here. Do we get the right POI? Okay, so we come deeper into the POI. So there you go. You might have missed your first entry right here, looking at this guy. So if that's the case, let's just keep going and see what happens next, right? We never ended up breaking that area on the 15 seconds. So there really wasn't any kind of viable trade to really get into anything right here. So let's go back down to the 1 minute. Okay, we'll see if this gets swept out. Okay, so once this gets swept out like this, then we can start looking at, okay, well, where are we going to go next, right? So ultimately for me, I would like to see this area right here kind of taken out. And if and when it does, then we can start looking for obviously some sort of a play from here. Okay. Same thing. Okay, so right here, this low right here got taken, right? So I would probably look at something like this now to put a limit. And the reason I could be relatively confident in putting a limit on something like this is because essentially there was a small bit of liquidity that was taken here. People trading from this high right here, creating stop losses and liquidity above this high. So at this point, I think I would be okay with looking at some sort of a sell setup off of here. Just go like this. This would be cell number 2. Your first one you would have got taken out right up in this region. And in all fairness, one of my rules, I just broke it while backtesting this actually, make mistakes too, but usually I want to see, equal highs kind of build at a POI. And then from there, if Derek's in here, he should be laughing at me right now because I just talked to him about this yesterday. I don't know if you're here, buddy, but this is kind of funny. This is the same example that we used. But yeah, we've essentially got these highs that have built right here. And then from there, we've induced into the POI. So this is typically what I should be waiting for, but I looked at this inducement before the POI. Still valid area to kind of look for. But again, these, you're not going to catch every single trade. So now that we've seen these equal highs sort of build here, we've swept above, we didn't break structure, and then this low right here created this high, and now we've broken it. That creates an area in which I would be definitely interested in taking trades from. Anybody, agree or disagree that we can take trades from here? Everybody's nervous now because I made a mistake. Yeah, I mean, we should have no issues with taking trades now from this area, in my opinion. Again, it may not work out, but ultimately, this is kind of like following that plan where ultimately we've had something sort of take liquidity here. And then from there, we could start looking for some sort of a setup. So let's go like this. And we'll see if we get tagged in. 2.5, yeah, nice 2.5. On the initial chalk, I don't mind going a little bit larger stop loss, 2.5, as most of you guys know at this point. Okay, we don't get tagged in. Okay, still leaving it. Still leaving it. Boom, tapped in. Okay, so if you missed your first entry, oops, you probably could have got in on a seconds chart, maybe something like this. You see this kind of built up liquidity right here, right? So once we build up liquidity, ideally, we're going to get there pretty rapidly, right? We're going to be taking out all those mitigations. So let's go down to the seconds chart and just see if there was something in here that you could have taken. Yeah, there you go. So here's that second sauce for anybody who's curious about how that works. So low, high, broke the low right here. You could have easily taken this, probably have a 1 pip stop without any issues whatsoever. This is an ideal setup. So let's just say you got in, you know, halfway through this, whatever, and then just above here, 1.2 pip stop. You get the idea. And then as soon as the lows kind of break, you'd be able to move over to break even just until at least this guy breaks down here. And then ultimately you can be taking a partial to keep your stop loss open. So that's kind of how you would use the seconds. I know there's people asking, you know, Hugo's one of the guys looking to jump on the seconds and stuff like that. This is a way that you can get on it. I didn't take this specific setup, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it wasn't super clear to me. Even the 15-second, you know, break a structure right here. Could have easily taken this guy with the same thing. Wicks maybe, or sorry, stop loss just above here. A couple different ways to get into it, but the 1 minute is the one obviously that we're looking at right now. And there should be no issues to do this. You obviously could have taken, you know, the 50% of the block if you really wanted to, if you're a little bit more aggressive. So right now, what I would do is, because this aligns with higher time frame intention here, let's just look at this. I think where I was aiming was underneath these lows down here, if I'm not mistaken. So let's just talk about how this would have worked and how you could have managed your first position here. So let's target, you know, something just below these lows right here. Yeah, actually it's this low that's weak. We don't know that this low is going to be weak right here, so we can just target something like this, just underneath this low. Call it a 1 to 15.5. Okay, go to the 1. And we'll just see how this thing ends up kind of cruising out here. So once this low breaks, I would probably be looking to take a partial at 1 to 4. Okay, so I don't know where 1 to 4 would be, but let's just call it 1 to 4. Where are we? Somewhere in here. Okay, I'm just going to put a little marker for us. Yes. And we can then take this guy down to this weak low right here. Okay, and let's just go up. And then that would allow you to kind of reopen up your stop loss, right? If that's something that you want to do. Definitely with the higher time frame moves, it's something I'm way more interested in doing. Okay, so partial at 1 to 4 right here. We do have a small bit of demand resting right here, right? That ultimately put us into the high. So reopening the stop loss, I'm okay with doing this at this level. And then we'll ultimately just kind of see what's going on here. So let's look out at the 5 minute just for a second. So if you look at the level in which we broke structure from, I'm just going to show you what I ended up doing yesterday so that you guys, you know, a lot of you guys are asking about my mistakes and stuff like that too. And I just want to show you exactly what I ended up doing here. Yeah, so basically what I saw was, okay, well, we had this break a structure right here, you know, kind of sweep of liquidity here, followed by a break. I'm thinking this is a chalk. So I said, okay, well, what caused that to break? And what caused it to break was somewhere down in this region right here. So I was essentially looking for trades down in here to be able to kind of target up into here. But ultimately what's happening is because I failed to see this little break of structure over here, which creates a strong high, I was swinging on counter trend stuff. So the 15-minute low, let me go to the 15 here. You know, the 15-minute low is now broken here, right? So obviously TradingView does that weird thing where let's just kind of map this across like this. You know, this is the 15-minute low that we're expecting to break. So if this breaks, that'll create a strong high up in this region again. So if you missed out on the first one, this would have ultimately been your kind of like your second chance to kind of jump in at this. So let's get rid of this. Anybody take this trade yesterday? Were you worried about the equal highs? Give me a second. Let me get my marker out here. Did you take anything sells from this POI yesterday? Cool. I know I had talked about, you know, I was worried and I was only going to wait until this happened. But so the reason I didn't take this one is because we only had that 5-minute break. I mean, this is kind of like getting in early in case this just decides to fucking rip. But yeah, that's another reason why I didn't quite get into this, but it was just another way to be able to do it. We're going to get into the better one that really aligns with the trading plan a little bit better right now. So just stay on the 15-minute here. Okay, so right here, when we broke structure right here, okay, this was kind of like the telltale, okay, now we've broken the 15-minute leg, right? So what this means for us is as soon as we break this 15-minute leg, but I was confused with the chalk on the seconds. I think I should stick to the minutes for now. Well, yeah, the seconds is pretty noisy. You know, I was really liking it for, I don't know, I would say a few weeks. And I've kind of just, you know, backed away a little bit. And my one entry from yesterday was on the 5-second. Yeah, the 1 minute seems to be a lot nicer. The only problem with it is I have a hard time with market executions on the 1 minute. And I also hate not getting tagged in and then getting it run, you know, 20R or whatever it might be. So, you know, this is just kind of the crossroads that you're going to deal with. So just keep that in mind, that the seconds is nice for those market entries. So, okay, let's say you're in this trade right now. We're running the week low. Where does supply control the market from? Yeah, at its extreme, it's up here. And this is where I got a lot of flack yesterday. You know, what about the equal highs? Well, here's the thing, okay? Am I really concerned about equal highs? Yes, I always am. I'm always worried about it. The thing that needs to be noticed here is who just took, like, at what point do sellers take over the market? What was the point that needed to get taken out for sellers to be truly in control of the market in terms of our trading plan? Yeah, exactly. Guys, give me 2 seconds. I just have to grab the door. All right, I'm back. One of my girlfriend's Christmas gifts just arrived, so I have to pick it up at the door so she doesn't grab it and see where the box is from. Okay, so break a structure. So once this momentum has shifted, right? So again, you know, easier said than done. And there's times where I don't get into trades because I'm worried about liquidity. But what I'm starting to allow myself to do, especially with higher time frame intention moves, you know, built up into a POI, we've induced the POI. Ideally, what I'm looking at here is, okay, well, this is where the shift in momentum starts. So if we come back up to here, chances are we're going to induce these highs to come into here, right? Because anybody who's into these kind of trades up in here, more than likely stop losses are sitting right here. So the pool of money is going to rest right here and not necessarily above here. Doesn't mean there's not going to be orders there, but the idea behind this is because of the momentum shift, we should be relatively okay to be able to look for trades. Now, I'm not going to be putting limits here. What I'm going to be doing is looking for something in here to be able to then take, something like this, some sort of a continuation. So we'll get to that in just a second. So right now, let's go down to the 1 minute. Okay. And I just want to see when we start pulling back. Your favorite setup, Zen, I know, bro. So we're breaking down here. Okay, so we start breaking down. Okay. We're going to make another low. Okay, so this is the long that I got in right here. Okay, so let's think about this right now. I'm just going to move this guy over like this because it's kind of annoying in the way. So right here, what I was looking at was this sort of demand. Let me go to the 5 minutes so that you can see why this makes sense in just a second. What I thought we were doing was inducing this level right here, okay? And when we came down into the demand zone, this is, that whole yellow car theory. I think of yellow cars, you're going to see yellow cars. I was thinking of longs the whole session because I missed it down here. And ultimately, I was like, okay, well, this has got to be it, right? This has got to be the one that's going to take us up into that upper POI. So let me just show you exactly what it is that I looked for. So right here, this is not, I had my notes wrong or my annotations a little bit wrong yesterday when I posted this. So, this level right here kind of got induced right here. Now this won't be classified as an induced level up until I kind of know what happens here because I remember taking this trade. But this will be an induced low if and when this high right here breaks. So let's just see what ends up happening. Okay, so right here, we've induced the low. This is not a change of character because a change of character, does anybody want to show me where the chalk would be? What level would need to break? Yeah, exactly. So I had this labeled as a chalk and it was just a mistake. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've got all these guys right here and it's one right on top of another. I just selected the wrong one. This is essentially a break of structure. So because we've induced the low and we've broken structure, where's the area that we should be trading from if we were looking for longs here? Yeah, I think it's, yeah, Zen, I think you got it, man. This down move before the up move. So what I ended up doing is taking this guy right here and I just took the 50% of this area and I ended up getting tagged into it. Now, again, this is me kind of swinging for the fences on, thinking that, my analysis is perfect. I just told you guys in the pre-New York narrative that, we're expecting this to get swept up into here, these equal highs. This is why I didn't end up taking stuff into here. I thought this was all going to get generated as liquidity to be able to sweep and then break down. Because we were in such a range bound, I was expecting one side to kind of give out first before obviously looking to take that higher time frame sell. Now, let me tell you where things kind of got shifted for me. And we're just going to walk through this because it's important to see not so much mistakes, but just, having the wrong perspective and when I kind of clued into it. So at this point, I didn't see this as a break of structure. I just saw this as an induced low. And that's because, again, I was thinking of longs the whole session. That's what I wanted to take. I wanted to be right about that. And so over like this, because I was immediately over at break even. And then whether or not we get tagged out doesn't really matter to me. So I'll just go like this, put this at break even. Hold on here. Anyways, you guys know where it is. You guys can see it. And what I ended up doing was saying, okay, well, let me just look at this 5 minute chart. And now I'm starting to see that, okay, well, we've had this momentum shift. So if that's the case, and we've had the momentum shift, let me just get rid of this guy over here. Okay. You can now see that we have this little POI up in this region, right? So ultimately, supply, let's go down to the 1 minute. We'll just kind of fix this guy up. So because we've shifted momentum, right, we've taken out the low that essentially took liquidity. So this low right here should have been the strong low. because I'm trading long, I should have been, it's a good thing I took a partial. I ended up leaving my stop loss open, but it's a good thing I took a partial up in this, in this area. So let me just talk about what happened here. Okay, we start to move up. Okay. Okay, so once we got into this area right here, I believe this is kind of like where my 1 to 4 was. So I took a partial off. Anyways, I'm going to take this off because obviously we kind of have an idea of how this plays out. And I'm just going to adjust my supply zone to this supply. Okay, and what ends up happening next is, oops, is we got to watch for that same kind of setup. So what I'd like to see here, and instead of just looking for something like this, I want to make sure that we build liquidity somehow on the 1 minute. We sweep, and then as soon as we sweep, this is when I'm looking for the seconds entry, and this is the entry that I ended up taking. Okay, so we tap in, we start to pull back. Okay, a lot of people see this as the sweep. Okay, so right now, what would you be? What would be your next move? Would you? There's no wrong answer. I'm 100% curious. Would you be looking for this, or would you be waiting for something a little bit higher? Again, this. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're an idiot or anything like that. Bottom line here, I'd be looking for, honestly, I would have taken this too. And let me tell you why I didn't take it. It's not because it didn't fit my criteria. It's because I had a long bias up until this point. When I started to see this shift here, this was the first indication. When this low got taken right here, this was my first indication that I was like, okay, well, why are we taking out structure if I'm expecting this high? I have to be right? So that's kind of what was going through my head, and just kind of, letting my ego kind of do most of the talking, or creating most of my narrative. And this is what ends up happening is, as soon as you see this, the first thing you want to do is take this sell, right? So the only reason, again, that I didn't take this sell is really simple. It's because I still had a long bias up until this broke. And then I was just trying to basically justify how this was still going to end up breaking structure to the upside. Okay, so let's go like this. Well, if you were to put an order here, okay, in hindsight, of course, if you were going to put an order here like this, ideally, yeah, you could have just covered these highs, and you might have just got taken out, right? But usually what ends up happening on that initial change of character, and I'm sure you guys can see it time and time again, look, it's the same thing that happened here, right? So how many people in smart money see this first order block get taken like this, and then the first thing they want to do is sell from here? Well, what does that create? That creates a couple levels of inducement because people are chasing this now. So you just have to remember that you don't need to be first. I think that's one of the big lessons here, is that you don't need to be first to the party, because look at all of this right here still needs to get mitigated to be able to run as liquidity, right? So for myself, this is kind of like a no-brainer, of course, in hindsight. And this is why I was able to get into the trade today as well, was just kind of waiting for this inducement to sort of happen. So let's just keep this here, see if that would have tagged us in. Okay, tagged us in, giving you a small reaction. If you see that we're having a hard time breaking it like this, you're better to just kind of cut your losses off or move over to break even. So you see that obviously we get swept out here. So once we sweep up, okay, so right here, this is when I'm going, okay, well, you know what? We've had these, and these are the details that you kind of got to realize too, right? Is we've had these equal highs across like this, right? This little bit of liquidity that was unable to continue to break structure, right? So if we couldn't take out structure sitting from this level right here, kind of breaking into here, usually the high is going to get ran, which is fine. That's not a big deal, but it's just a matter of being able to say, okay, well, even if I'm in this trade right here and I take a loss, am I going to be able to still look for that same criteria again? So let me show you how I look for my criteria. I jumped down onto the 5 second, and ultimately, once we broke this level right here, I believe is what it was. This is when I started looking for my setup. But you can see, technically, we've, in theory, we've broken this small bit of demand right here, right? But ideally, this is kind of the better one, at least in my experience. I'm not super great at using the seconds as of yet. There's times when it's a really lethal tool, but something like this, I would just want to see something with like an actual swing point get broken, and then ask myself what caused the break, right? So if we just watch how this ends up playing out, you know, here's your little bit of inducement right here. Liquidity. You probably could have taken this one on your first one if you really wanted to and just keep your stop above here. Okay. So we start to break down. Okay. So something like this, again, if you wanted to, here's another option to be able to take something right here. I don't know, like you won't be putting limits. Just be mindful of this. You won't be putting limit orders with the seconds. Typically, it's going to be market execution. So how I like to do it is I'm going to say, okay, well, I know I want my stop loss to be sitting just above here. So as soon as I'm within 2 pips or whatever it is, the predetermined amount with the spread and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to allow myself to get into this trade. So I'll just market execution as soon as this number reads out as 2 pips. So boom, I hit click. All of a sudden we get tapped in and then we start moving away. So for myself, what I really wanted to see here was this level right here sort of break. And what I ended up doing is, you'll see in a second. So right here, when we broke right here, where does supply control the market, right? Let me get this indicator on. There's no gaps. Okay. So for myself, all I did was as soon as this broke, I was keeping my stop loss sitting like this. Okay. Let me just go like this, whatever. I was just keeping it just above these highs right here. Okay. Both of these guys in case we decide to run up a little bit higher. So as soon as we start pulling back into this region, basically coming like this, I'm executing on a market order. So just like this, I would have entered that's exactly when I entered the trade, and then immediately starts pushing away. So I'm not over at break even up until, look at all the liquidity here, right? Once we start breaking this low, then I'm going to start looking to move over to break even. Okay, there we go. So now at this point, it's a no-brainer. I'm sitting at break even because if we decide to come up higher, all that's going to do is provide another opportunity to get in. I'd much rather try to get in a second time than take an unnecessary loss because we end up sweeping out and then going a little bit higher up to the original POY that we were looking for, right? So that's, again, just kind of how I view things, but I do take a lot of break evens, and I don't know if everybody likes doing that or if they just like waiting for better setups, but that's kind of how I deal with things. So something like this, let's go out to the 1 minute now, get rid of this indicator. So you can see that obviously, you know, this has worked out. The other thing that's worth noting is because we took partials off at this level right here with this, excuse me, with this specific trade, you can see that because we took the partials, we've now allowed our stop loss to stay open, which means that we could have kept this stop loss open for this entire thing. But you got to have the kind of guts to be able to let this play through based on the fact that we took out this strong low right here and essentially broke it, creating a new strong area to kind of trade from. I just want to see if there's questions. Ty, same setup as today. Yeah, exactly. Casio was the exact same setup as today. And they're just such common setups, right? They're the most valuable ones in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to keep playing price through and just see what ends up happening here. Okay, so it's something like this. Again, 1 to 4. So let's just see where 1 to 4 is. Right around here. So once we hit 1 to 4, I'm going to probably do the same thing. Partial out 25%. I don't think I did. I think I just moved over to break even. But you could partial out at 25% and leave your stop loss open. But here's the thing. If we start coming back up to this region right here, there's a really good chance that this will get ran, right? The more times that we tap into this level, the more likely it's going to be for us to run it as liquidity and go up to some sort of a higher point. So just something to be mindful of. when making those decisions. It's not really worth exposing yourself to liquidity if it's not necessary. So for something like this, it might be worth just moving over to break even and then taking maybe like a 50% partial, maybe at this low or whatever it might be, one of these areas that are of interest to you, so that at least you have some profits banked. But same profit target. The idea behind this is that this low right here is the one that put us up into here, which failed to take out the structure high over here. So if we're looking to run this low as a weak low, we could do something like this. Now, because you're getting in at the top of market structure, obviously we could look at something a little bit more higher time frame and say, okay, well, something down in here as demand is kind of what I ended up targeting. Ended up closing my position a little bit earlier today, but you could run, let's just say, just to this region right here to fill this imbalance. Same thing with this, conservative target really underneath these weak lows, and you can see how much liquidity is kind of resting right here. Again, doesn't mean that we're going to hit full take profit, but if you have at least this sitting here like this, if you're sleeping or whatever, at least you get to leave your partial kind of running for the duration of the sessions that your trade is operating, right? So something like this, again, I'm not really managing too much at this point. The first partial that I think I ended up taking was in and around this region right here. And I took 25% off at this level. So we'll just watch how it happens. And you can see that the narrative is built, right? So everything is built based off the fact that we have all this liquidity resting here. There's a reason for price to kind of revisit down into these levels. Now, something like this, let's say you didn't get in on the first one. Well, ideally what I'd be looking for is saying, okay, well, this area right here is kind of like that little range bound area. I'd maybe look at putting, if you didn't put a scale, I wouldn't be putting a scale in personally, but if you wanted to put an order resting like this because you missed the top one, this would kind of be that valid area. I don't know if this tags in or if it even ends up holding. Did that tag in right there? Yeah, barely, but tags in and then pushes away, right? So at this point, you can be break even, right? Got liquidity building. So you should be over at break even no matter what, because ultimately you don't want to be exposed to the liquidity. I was a little bit nervous about all of this building up like this. I thought for sure we were going to sweep into the more extreme area of the leg. We didn't end up doing it, but just to show you a couple different options to be able to get into this. You can kind of see this, like I said, this up move right here, this little range, right? This little range before we kind of broke out of it on the 1 minute. I don't know if this is more clear on the 5. Let's just have a look at it. Yeah, no, there was nothing on the 5, just kind of filled in balance. But yeah, on the 1 minute, you can just see that small little range that that you could have scaled into. Probably actually really apparent on the 15-second. Yeah, you can see this a lot better here. You can just see this sort of move right here. Now, again, you would have to maybe take your order with something like this. You'd be looking at maybe taking a quarter of this, and you would have to kind of cover this, right? Because if you want to get tagged in, but if this ends up getting ran as liquidity, these little equal highs right here, keep yourself like a 2-pip stop or whatever it might be. Anyways, just trying to show a couple different ways that you could have got into it. Whether or not you did or didn't. But the nice part about waiting for this sort of entry is that if you were worried about these equal highs up here on the higher time frame over to the left-hand side, this does not expose you to that liquidity, right? So if you find yourself being one of these people where, liquidity is, one of these things that you really fear with your entries, just remember that you can take stuff like this, but you just have to know when to take it. And one of the best ways to take it is obviously look for a small bit of imbalance, look for a break of structure, maybe demand to supply flips down in the origin of these moves right here, demand turning into supply down in here. You could have taken something like this. There's all kinds of different ways to do it to not be in at the top, but you need to sort out which ones you prefer taking. But yeah, based off of structure from the higher time frame, this was a strong area to kind of trade from to begin with. We just needed to see sweep on the lower time frame first. Any questions about this so far? All right, keep going. Okay, so this low right here is going to be weak because we couldn't take the high, right? So if we can't take the high, we're expecting this to, boom, just kind of plummet, right? So it's all going to get ran. So this is the first place that I really look to take partials. Like I said, about 25% off the table. You know, all your stop losses should be over at break even. Same with this guy right here. If you didn't take a partial here, depending on how, of course, you trade, everybody manages a little bit differently. But this would be a good area to consider taking some partials off of this guy too, if you haven't already. So 25%, 25%. Please put some in the bank for yourself, and that's probably running about 8R and maybe 5R or something like that on these trades. So then it's just a matter of whether or not you want to trail your stop. Personally, I'm not trailing a stop because the narrative is built with all the liquidity resting here. But again, that's totally up to you whether or not you'd like to do that. But let's just kind of play this out and see what ends up happening here. Okay, another opportunity for a potential scale in was maybe right here. This is pretty deep in the leg. Personally, I don't really like these. You know, ultimately, so the leg that pushes us, if you guys want to make note of this, actually, the leg that pushes us into the POI, I only want to take the upper half of this is ideally where I want to be taking my trades. Okay, there's times where I will hack it out and take something like this or whatever. I don't do the whole sell stop or anything like that with you know, your limits and stuff like that personally, but if that fits your criteria, by all means do it. But I don't personally like trading like that. Okay, so something like this, if you wanted to manage, I mean, ultimately supply controls the market from this level right here, right? So, you know, you could manage your stop loss right underneath here. Shouldn't be an issue. Okay, you could probably just keep it sitting just like that for now. Okay, we get the pullback. Break the low. So you probably manage over here if you really wanted to get aggressive. You know, we're getting pretty close to TP anyways. We're actually getting close to this extreme right here. So you would have got taken out, right? So that's the only problem with letting these stop losses trail too heavily. I think the better way to go about it is by partialing out, because the trade idea could still be valid even though we are, you know, tapping into, or sorry, we've actually pulled back off of this this extreme of the move, right? You can see that the move is taken. So ideally what will happen is we'll come up to usually around 50% of the leg, right, to look for scale-ins and stuff like that. In this case, obviously, like we're past our time, but I do want to play this out just to see how it ends up panning out. Again, we just kind of targeted this little imbalance over here, and we'll just see if this ends up playing out. And then I'm just going to go over today's trades right after this. Okay, so we start to break down. Okay. Break down. Just hit this. Create liquidity. Right. Pull back. Sorry to make everybody watch this, but it's good to see. Okay, we're going to stop this. And we'll just go up to the 15. Just see if this ends up getting taken here. Okay, so it doesn't actually get taken up. So even if you carried this from the day before. So now, one of the things, actually, we'll just keep playing this through. I think it ends up, yeah, there we go. So we get taken out. So today, this morning, so I hope everything is clear with this. Sorry, I'm kind of stumbling on my words today. I don't know what's going on, but is everybody okay with, you know, this piece right here, and then we can start dealing with today's stuff? If there's any questions, of course, I mean, yeah, don't be shy. Happy to answer them as required or as necessary. But this is a pretty textbook setup. I guess the big takeaway for this is if you were scared of the equal highs, you know, building across here, you were expecting a sweep into here. Basically, you got to get on board with what order flow is suggesting, right? And the telltale was essentially once we broke this little structure piece right here. As soon as that ends up happening, you have to understand that there is a momentum shift or a potential for a momentum shift. You just have to get on board with what order flow is suggesting, right? So hopefully that's clear for everyone. The next thing, so let's get rid of all of our drawings here, remove drawings, and let's start talking about, okay, we're on December 3rd. Okay, so we're actually just going to take this off like this. So now I'm going to take this back testing tool, December 3rd at, oh goodness, where are we? Okay, it was around 5:30. So even if you're looking during London, let's just talk about London actually really quick. Again, I don't really trade London, but again, I was on the charts this morning because I was up early enough. I was doing other stuff on the computer. So what I saw was, okay, well, here's the lowest point, right? So first thing I did was say, okay, well, here is the leg, right? So if that's the leg, and the reason I'm selecting this as the leg is because none of this stuff is going to hold. And the reason why is because we have too much built up liquidity, right? So if we have too much liquidity built up, we got to be able to say, okay, well, ultimately none of this is going to do anything. So if you had your measurement tool from here to here, equal highs, this is all going to get blown right through to be able to come up and mitigate this area up here, right? So pretty easy. We can see our POI resting right here. So I picked this guy right here like this. Now it's a matter of waiting for that exact same setup, right? So stay on the 15-minute up until we get up there. There might have been a long in here, but this is counter trend. This is, not the high probability setups. So personally, I'm waiting for this guy to get tapped in, something like this. As soon as we get tapped in, I can jump down to my entry time frame and say, okay, well, what needs to happen, right? So what did I say before? What needs to happen here? Do you want to draw it out first? Yeah, we want to see some sort of a sweep, right? Want to see some sort of inducement, some sort of liquidity built up. So that's, again, typically what I like to see. So we'll just wait for this to end up doing its thing. So we come back down. Okay, so this is kind of like a tricky little area because we end up actually breaking structure right here like this, which is, okay, well, now it becomes really, really tricky because a lot of people want to trade from, maybe 50% of this. Maybe they just want to take the inside bar. But here's the thing. It's really simple. If you're first to the party, chances are you're going to get swept out, right? You want to be second or third with trading the chalks, at least the way that I like to do them. So we got liquidity resting right here. So I'm not getting into any trade up until this gets swept out. That's it. That's all. There's nothing more to it. Okay, we get the reaction. Okay, we got equal highs building. We've now swept. Okay. I want to see a little bit more of a sweep if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so something. Okay, so now we've sort of broken down in here. So this would be the first area that I'd be considering taking trades from, would be something up in this region right here on the 1 minute at least. Two pip stop. Okay, tagged in, push over to break even. You get the idea. Okay, so now we've broken down like this. So essentially once this low goes down here, right, which is at a, what, 1 to 5, so 25% off, right? Depending on how much you're risking, but this is such an ideal setup. So now if you miss the first one, guess what? You might have a second chance here, right? So where's your second chance if you wanted to get in? Yeah, this is what I'm looking at. I would probably take this range right here and just look at where 50% of it is, right? It's the up before the down. So I'd probably put my order somewhere like that. Okay, I was already in at the top of this and I ended up adjusting my stop loss. But yeah, if you did something like this and you just took this guy like this, ultimately keep your stop loss just above here. So with something like this, you can see, obviously your stop loss is getting pretty big. So I would say, maybe taking 50% of this and allowing your stop loss, you kind of get the idea. Most of you guys probably took this. Let's just see if it comes back up. I can't remember if it does. What are we doing? We're building liquidity on the way down. Mitigations, tag in. Did we get tagged? Oops. Oh, I didn't take the beginning of that block. That's why. Okay, start to move away. Okay. Building liquidity, and then it just plummets, right? So targets, pretty simple. You know, first thing you want to look for is, okay, well, obviously the idea behind this is that this low should be weak, right? We've just induced or taken all the liquidity that's resting here to be able to take the liquidity underneath the low. So the first target for me would be sitting right underneath this low. I'm not really targeting, give me a second here. Wow, I've got too many things up and open here. So take this guy, target this low, 1 to 16. The next one is, yeah, same thing, just underneath the low. And then you could maybe take 50% of your position off. With news that was coming out, it would have been wise to just take off all your position here. Just because, you know, NFP is coming out and you know how that can be, you know, sweepy and then who knows where it ends up. So you're better off just taking your profits off the table. I would probably even just target, actually what I ended up doing was taking profits right around this level right here, this little demand underneath, because I thought we were going to sweep into this for whatever reason. So let's just see how this ends up going. Okay, so you see you would have got taken out without any, well, obviously you would have partialed out here. But yeah, that's basically it for today's trade. There's really not much to talk about other than it's almost identical setup. You can just see that same thing, right? We've had the momentum shift. We've had the momentum shift. We've come back to the extreme. We've come back to the extreme. We've plummeted off. We've plummeted off. If there was no news today, I would say that this probably would have ran a lot lower, but because of the news, obviously there was orders to mitigate up here on a higher time frame, which obviously leads us into you know, just a whole different animal with trading news. And then I can kind of show you, you know, there was a couple little new setups. I shouldn't even get into it because I didn't really trade them. The only setup that I really traded after this was once these lows gave way, I waited for liquidity to get swept a few times, and then I looked for change of character to then target liquidity that was generated. So that's the trade I'm in right now. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of stuff to really say about you know, these two trades. I mean, they're pro trend. You know, they take liquidity, induce a POI, take liquidity, induce a POI, change character, come back to extreme, come back to extreme. You know, this is the most reliable. It is the easiest setup, but you just got to be patient and you got to trust the process. That once, you know, if you don't want to be first, you know, this is kind of, yeah, I'll trade after. Yeah, I'll show you the trade after NFP. Just give me a second. But yeah, you can see it, all you want to be able to do is watch for an inducement and then followed by a break of structure, right, on the 15 or the 5, depending on what it is that you want to look at. But ultimately, the 5 is one of the ones that gives a nice clear picture. You can see the low that creates the high, break a structure, come up, and away we go. So I will show you the data point unavailable. Let me just get rid of all my drawings, and I'll show you the stuff from today. Okay, so it was down in here. Now I'm going to select what there was over here. Can't really remember. Yeah, it was down in this region. So I looked at the extreme down in here, the down move right here. I just want to look on the, I think I selected a 5-minute POI and then reduced even down to a 1. Yeah, so you can see that the lowest point right here, right? Something like this. This is kind of what I was looking at, was this internal range right here. And I brought this across. So once we got into the most extreme point, I was on the 1 minute, and this is the trade right in here. Nope, hold on, it's on the 15-second if I'm not mistaken. 15, give me a second, let me just go like this. Replay right here. Okay, so 15-second, yeah. 5-second possibly. right here. Okay, so right here, let me just go like this. We took liquidity, we broke to the upside, right? We failed to take the low, failed to take out the low from supply, right? Came back up, created liquidity. I took my entry right here, and this was already built to be able to get me to break even. And then from there, I just left that break even. I ended up partialing out right here. Actually, no, sorry, where did I partial out? It was a little bit higher up in this region up here. Let me just see where it ends up going. We'll go to the 1 minute. Yeah, at this extreme up here is where I ended up partialing this inside bar, I believe. I can double check that, but yeah, so exactly. I partialed out right here with the idea that, you know, obviously supply could take control of the market in and around this region. But I was expecting that because we've essentially kind of come down, we've taken all the sell side liquidity. I was expecting to come back up to at least this extreme up here that took liquidity. This is going to be that strong high, but because, you know, you kind of have to read between the lines with what ends up happening with news, right? So whenever we come to mitigate something, it's typically because we want to run it as liquidity, right? That's usually what ends up happening. So you can see that we're kind of built up like this now. And I'm basically looking at this as like that kind of spring action or spring loaded. So I'm expecting this to kind of go probably into this region up here, this original area of supply. So this is kind of where my TP is going to be sitting. I'm going to be closing it at some point today anyways. I'm not going to be managing too much. I'm just going to be waiting to see what ends up happening. So right now you can see that we're obviously kind of fighting around at this extreme area. And we'll just kind of see what happens here. I've already taken a good chunk of my profits off right at the beginning of this call. So now it's just a matter of, you know, whether or not I want to hold this any longer, or if I just want to let this thing run. You know, ultimately, I'm in at the very bottom that took liquidity and then broke this little bit of structure right here, broke this supply. So it's a strong level to kind of hold from. So I may end up holding this for the next you know, few hours, getting into the later hours of the afternoon. So we're a little bit early today, 12:41. Getting a little quicker at doing these, and I'm sure, you know, I don't have to go over with such a fine-tooth comb. I think everybody's starting to really piece things together a lot better than what they were, you know, 5-6 weeks ago. Any questions or comments, or even like, do you want to share screen, show charts, talk about anything? Got some time right now. I know, like I said, we're a little bit early, but I don't want to start a whole new day's worth of price action. Tomorrow's another day we're going to be dealing with. We're going to be dealing with this piece right here, this internal range stuff. And then we're going to be dealing with Monday. I think it was Monday's PA with the news on Sunday. Does anybody have questions? No, maybe, possibly. Okay. Yeah, again, I'm not trying to chintz you guys on time. I got more than enough time if we want to look at some more stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Zen. Cue your mic on, man.
Hi, Tyson.
Hey, Zen.
Hey, I have taken a trade during London.
Okay.
Would you mind looking at it today?
Yeah. Do you want me to? Or yeah, probably easier if you share your screen.
Oh, my screen. Hold on. Let me just pull out the.
Or do you want me to just? Or I guess you can annotate on mine.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Okay, cool. So give me a second. Let me just clear my drawings. Remove drawings. Okay. And you said from London. Okay, so let's go like this. So that starts at.
So this is the 15-minute, right?
Yeah. So it starts right here.
So I actually took the trade. Sorry, somewhere here. Actually, 30. So because yeah, I was having a bias was this was a POI and this is all our inducements, right? And this is another one.
Yeah.
Another POI and all the inducements. So it came up here and it played that setup, you know, the one that I always talk about.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. And you know what? You're not, okay, here's the thing. You're not wrong to take stuff from here. Okay. But the thing is, like you got to remember that this is going to produce a reaction, right? Because there's imbalance, it's going to give you a reaction to trade from. Now, you have to make a judgment call and say, okay, am I going to let myself go to break even? Because now I'm exposed to equal highs, and now I'm going to be exposed to equal highs as well as built up mitigations, right? So it's not a bad thing to look for sells here. The problem with it, of course, is that, you know, if you would have seen all this and all of this liquidity built up on the mitigations, you know, this is the viable area to kind of look for sells from.
Anyways, if we go to the 1 minute, I actually missed the trade, by the way. So
Okay.
I didn't manage to get into it.
Give me a second. Just go like this. Let's go to the
1
1.
minute.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just blow this up a little bit. Okay, so
okay, so I'm going to draw the setup. I think 15-minute POI was anyways, it's somewhere here, and this was
yeah. Do you want me to map out the POI for you?
No, it's fine. So
okay.
Basically it's a sweep, and we have the inducement, right? Oh,
yep.
Sorry, let me just draw again. Yeah, this is yeah. So the sweep, and then to our higher time frame POI.
Yep.
And then right here, I'm waiting for our typical, also the same again.
Right.
But my POI was here, so I was there's so much space before it reached there. So I thought they would do one more sweep and chop and enter here.
Right. Right.
It happens quite often that I miss my trade since I'm using only the 1 minute.
Right. Right. Yeah, man, it's like I said, you could have got, there's a few different ways to get into this that I can see, at least. You know, if you maybe on a second chart, you might be able to see like this break a structure coming into here, take this down. The other one would have been, okay, well, you know, ultimately this would be the only area I'd be interested in kind of trading from. And if this starts moving away like this and coming down into here, we're going to remove that order, right? The other thing is, you know, if had you zoomed out even to a 5-minute chart, you'd be able to see like all the built up liquidity to be able to fund this move to the upside, right? That goes to the higher probability setup. So as long as you see this, right, and like, you know, obviously, like it's tough when you're in the moment too, when you're trading, because man, when you see your criteria, you know, set up right here, you saw this probably as a sweep up to here, but you forgot about these. Like, man, it's so easy to just get you know, lost on that 1 minute and just like, fuck, I just want to force a trade out and be able to get into, you know, 5-hour or 8-hour trade. But yeah, man, the thing, like, I mean, really, this was all going to get ran, right? We swept down violently, we came back up, we mitigated, we failed to take out the low. If we failed to take out this low, this is not a strong area to trade from, right?
Yeah, but I couldn't take a buy trade yet because this was our 15-minute chop. So yeah, and my session ended here. So I guess I couldn't enter the buy anyway.
Yeah, there was no reason to get into any longs. You know, ultimately, you know, we're in bearish order flow, right? So we got to remember what we're looking for, right? So if you're looking for a higher time frame intention move, you got to remember that we're going to have to break structure, you know, structure here, structure here, structure here, to be able to come up to mitigate this, fill the imbalance, clear out this liquidity to be able to bring this move down to the downside, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. You know, not a bad area to look for during a session trade to be able to trade this. But the problem with it is that the high quality setup was sitting right here, right? This was so clear, such a clear move, right?
I already got my bias to be here, but too bad it wasn't in my session.
It happens, bro. It's all good. Do you have any other questions then?
I know. I just want, my main question was that the entry on the 1 minute, that it always misses right before the POI. Sometimes it happens, but it seems like an inducement at the same time, you know, like an equal high.
Do you want to show me?
Like this one. Wait, this one. Like, you know, they always do this right before the POI, you know, the last move, and
yeah,
this happens to me in this week like twice. Like, oh, so frustrating.
Yeah, because you get so well, and that's the thing is, whenever you see equal highs like this built within the range, usually they're going to get taken before they come down, right?
Yeah. It's just like it doesn't come out. It's like, you waited for this moment and it just doesn't go down.
This is every single person who is just starting smart money. They want they have the fear of missing out, right?
Yeah.
And they get in, and then this is what causes price to come up into here, right? Is because all the stop losses sit here, right? There's going to be, it's a very liquid area, right? This entire area right here. But you've seen it play out, man. Like this isn't new news. It's just like, this is the way the market operates, right? If there's liquidity resting here, it's going to grab this and then go in this direction to clear out equal lows, right?
Yeah. So I guess if I miss this kind of because my limit was here, if I miss this kind of trade, there's no other way to enter. Because once this move, there is no.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And then you just wait. You wait for your next setup. You have to reevaluate on the higher time frame. Remember what I said, like 90% of your time is spent on the 15-minute and the 5 when you're a session trader, and maybe 10% of your time is actually on the, so you have to figure out an area that you want to trade from and to. And once you figure out where those areas are, only when we come up to those areas, that's when you're supposed to jump onto your entry time frame. Otherwise, you're going to chase around the 1 minute trying to figure out which one makes sense, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, like you told me, I have to wait for the 15-minute structure break, so I couldn't take a buy sell yet.
Yeah, that's fair, man. That's fair. You shouldn't have been looking for buys. You should have been looking for the higher time frame sells, which would have been the best option here, right? If you look over to this side, you can see that once this got cleared out, this was the valuable area to kind of take this down.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else for questions? So like I said, tomorrow we're going to be dealing with another day of price action, and then on Sunday we're going to deal with the big news day from the Powell speech. This right here. I didn't get into this. I actually had a long from down in here going all the way up that I ended up breaking even on because, just ego, right? It's end of the year, everybody's excited to make money, everybody wants to have a little bit more money at Christmas time or whatever it might be, and you make irrational decisions, and this is just c'est la vie, right? And this is just the way it goes sometimes. So excuse me, oh my goodness. So yeah, we will go over this in a little bit more detail. I'll save this one for Sunday because this will probably be close to 2 hours to really capture this one properly. Yeah.
I have one more question.
Zen, you're out of questions, man. No more from you.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. What's up, man?
It's just this one. I think that you told me this right before this actually happened. This long break.
I know.
I mean, when this happened, right? I mean, how do you view the market? Because it's just this. Everything is just contained in this range.
Well, and this is so anytime there's big news like this, the next week is always going to be internal range. And it's just a matter of seeing the little details. But you have to remember, higher time frame, this doesn't look like anything, right? Let's go look at the higher time frame right now, right? Go out to the 4 hour. It's a wick, but look at all we've done here is break structure, right? We've come down into mitigate the imbalance. Now we've come down to fill in here. So what do you think the next thing is going to be? Right? So when you use your higher time frame, you just get a clearer picture as to what's going on. It looks really noisy on the, look at the daily, daily doesn't look like anything. Doesn't look like a big deal at all, right? Probably come up into here, probably we could go higher. We're in weekly demand over to the left-hand side. We could see a nice big pullback up to this extreme up here, right? Anyways, we're going to talk about that news day in some pretty big detail. There was a lot of things that could have got you prepared for it and being on the right side. Again, I really don't like trading. I like trading 2 hours after news. That's kind of what I said to you guys this morning too, was like, getting caught up in the news when it's happening, forget about it. It's a fucking joke. And if you have positions running, you're exposing yourself to slippage. You're better off just taking some profits off the fucking table and going about your day, come back 2 hours later, and then look for the setup that takes liquidity, and then take this into new areas, right? So we're going to talk about it Sunday. We're going to talk a little bit more tomorrow too, but mostly on Sunday. I might even just do a 2-hour session. So anybody who's not just joined in a little bit later, just FYI again, the live trading session for the week long is going to start January 10th. So if you have a conflicting schedule and you want to rectify that, you got more than enough time to just kind of consider what you want to do. But yeah, that's ultimately what's going to be happening, is we're going to be doing it those days. So from the 10th to the 15th, I guess is what it'll be. And then I'll be starting the January masterclass on the 21st. So I'll have a week off in between. Yeah, I mean, patience is key with most things here, guys. I mean, you can see that, you know, ultimately we had built up mitigations here. We've broken down, we've came up, we tapped into the top, failed to take the low. That means that all this is going to get swept. And then you can just look for your criteria again, right? You can see the momentum shift on the 15-minute. So if you can't see it, it's ultimately this, creates this, breaks this, creates strong high, boom, down into the abyss. Obviously with news, you know, this acts a little bit more erratic, but ultimately same thing would have happened, right? I mean, we could have just gotten rid of this wick. It would have came up to here, more than likely just kept going down, creating liquidity for that higher time frame long at some point. So that's it. That's all for today. 5 minutes to spare. Last call for questions. I hope you guys are enjoying this still. I mean, I know we had like a little bit of a nitty-gritty week where, you know, we're getting towards the end, right? No more from me saying, oh, you're too much. It's funny. It's all good. So I'm just going to, again, just say this one last time. You have questions you don't want to ask during the masterclass, shoot me a message. I'm more than happy to jump on calls. Once this masterclass is over in the 3rd week of January, 2nd week of January, I won't be taking one-on-ones from you guys. And the reason why is because I'm going to have 40 more people jumping in, and I'm going to have to be dealing with all of them, right? So if you have questions that are relevant to the strategy, what I would suggest is compile them into over the course of a few days, and then kind of sit down and have like an hour-long talk with me. First couple of weeks I was struggling a bit. This week everything is becoming crystal clear. Yeah, man. And like Scott, that's kind of what I said at the beginning is, you know, week 4, 5, and 6 is when things really start to just like pop. It just starts happening, right? You just start seeing what needs to be seen. And you know what? One of the most crystal clear ways of being able to be a decent trader and be able to pull money out of the market almost every day is stay off the 1 minute unless you are planning on executing at the levels you're at. And just read the structure, right? Read the market structure. Look where the liquidity was built. Where is the 50% of the leg? You know, what are we inducing to come up there? Look for the shift in momentum. Once we shift momentum, that creates a strong high to trade from. You know, the rest is history, man. It's it doesn't need to be difficult. Trading is really quite simple. It's just a matter of you know, interpreting things the way that they need to be interpreted. Screenshot 1 entry in New York in my session every day. Over time, I start seeing the same setup. That's right, man. It's, you know what, this setup right here, this setup right here, you know, all of these are the exact same setup, right? Right here, you know, right over here, induced. You know, you can't make this stuff up. It's just, this is the way that the market operates, right? So you just have to get on board with waiting for your setup, knowing what your setup is that you like. There's, I think, 3 different kinds of setups that I've labeled in the trading plan, maybe 4. Pick one. Pick the one that you like the most and only trade that one. If you only trade one setup, you know what to look for, and you're not going to be searching for a bunch of different things. Having a bunch of different styles of setups is good once you've mastered a few, or mastered one rather. Then you can start moving into a little bit more in depth. But ultimately, there's no reason to go any further than finding that one setup that you really like. So there's my parting words for the session. So guys, have a good Friday. Enjoy yourself. I will see you guys tomorrow morning at some point. whenever we link up. I believe it's 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard. Yeah, so I'll get this uploaded hopefully tonight. If it's not tonight, it'll be tomorrow, early afternoon after the masterclass. I'll get both done at once. Yeah, that's it. That's all. Enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to take a little bit of time off the charts. Yeah, don't drink too much. Have a good weekend, guys. Cheers.